I'm going to speak to you with complete bluntness right now. What you're about to hear isn't something your father whispered to you as a kid. It's not what your teachers drilled into your head in school. And it's definitely not what society wants sitting in your mind. Most men live their entire lives and die, never discovering this. And that's not an accident. That's exactly how the system prefers it. Because once you hear what I'm about to reveal, you can't erase it. It divides your life into two eras, the time before you understood it and the time after. Half a millennium ago, a man named Machiavelli wrote down the rawest, most dangerous insights about human behavior that have ever existed. Truths so explosive the Catholic Church tried to bury his work. Yet the powerful, kings, presidents, generals, CEOs, studied his writings behind closed doors, all while denouncing them in public. Why? Because Machiavelli didn't create theories. He documented the blueprint of human nature, the real operating system beneath all our polite lies. Not the way we wish people behaved, but the way they actually function. And here's the disturbing part. The people who already understand these principles use them on you daily. In offices, in relationships, in politics, in conflict. They're playing grandmaster chess while you're still arranging checkers pieces. Ask yourself something. Why didn't your father teach you this? Why didn't school? Why didn't anyone? The answer is brutally simple. No one taught them either. And society has conditioned you to believe that seeing reality clearly makes you cold. That strategy makes you manipulative, that understanding power makes you evil. But here's the truth you were never allowed to hear. Ignorance doesn't make you pure. Ignorance makes you vulnerable. And starting right now, I'm going to make you stronger, more aware, more formidable. Once you understand these principles, you won't look at human behavior the same way again. So before we continue, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because what comes next will permanently change how you move through the world. You've been told your entire life that humans are logical creatures, that we weigh pros and cons, analyze outcomes, and make choices based on reason. That is one of the most dangerous lies you've ever accepted. Machiavelli exposed this centuries ago when he wrote, "Men judge more with their eyes than their hands. Everyone sees, but few truly understand." In plain language, people make decisions based on appearances, illusions, whatever feels right, not what is right. And here's the dark truth. Most people don't actually want honesty. They want emotional comfort. Think about it. The friend begging for advice about his collapsing relationship, then ignoring you because the truth hurts too much. The coworker complaining he's broke, but burning cash every morning on trivial comforts. The woman who insists she wants stability, yet keeps running back to the man who treats her like a backup option. Logic evaporates the moment it hits desire. Reason collapses when confronted by fear, ego, lust, or social pressure. And you've been losing the game because you were taught to persuade with facts, to argue with proof, to win people with rationality. But facts rarely sway anyone. Emotion does. The one who understands emotion, who can slip past logic and speak directly to desire, controls every environment he steps into. That man doesn't struggle to convince people he's right. He makes them feel he's right. That is a different level of power entirely. Look at history's most influential manipulators. Hitler didn't hypnotize a nation with charts and data. He lit emotional fires. Corporations don't dominate markets by listing chemical formulas. They sell identity, pleasure, nostalgia. Religions didn't spread through intellectual debates. They captured fear, hope, guilt, and transcendence. This is why your arguments fall flat. This is why people ignore your advice. This is why influence slips out of your hands. You've assumed people are rational. They aren't. Human beings are emotion-driven addicts seeking their next psychological hit. So here's your first dark lesson. Stop trying to shift minds with logic. Start shaping emotional reality. Want someone to follow you? Don't explain what's right. Make them feel good about choosing you. Trying to influence a partner? Don't argue. Make them feel the sting of losing you or the warmth of being valued. Want to dominate in business? Forget drowning people in information. Craft a narrative that makes you look inevitable. A man who debates with facts is a teacher. A man who commands emotions is a ruler. And once you recognize this, you'll begin to notice the masks everyone wears. The politician's charm, the influencer's exaggerated persona, the coworker's excuses. They're all emotional camouflage. Because beneath every action is a fear, a craving, a wound, a hunger. And once you can see that, you can pull the strings. But that's only the start. Because if people aren't rational, then loyalty itself is a myth. And this leads to Machiavelli's next brutal warning. There are only two kinds of men, predators and prey. Strip away the politeness, the social rules, the moral posturing, and you're left with the oldest law in existence. The strong take, the weak get taken from. And here's the harsh twist. Weakness isn't neutral. It attracts predators like blood in the ocean. Why do bullies target the silent kid instead of the fighter? Why do companies eliminate the most fragile employees first? Why do women leave the man who folds but attach themselves to the one who stands firm? Because predators choose the easiest target. Machiavelli understood this. That's why he wrote, "It is safer to be feared than loved, if you must choose." Not because fear is noble, but because fear builds boundaries. Love without strength invites betrayal. Fear, mixed with respect, ensures survival. But here's what most men never understand. Weakness doesn't just destroy you, it poisons everyone connected to you. A weak man doesn't just fail himself, he becomes a burden on everyone around him. He drains the strong until they either abandon him or collapse under the weight of carrying him. Weakness doesn't soften the world. It hardens it. Because once a predator tears into an easy target, it doesn't stop at one. It starts hunting for the next. That's why weakness is far more dangerous than cruelty. Cruel men at least stand on their own 2 feet. Weak men create a gravitational pull that drags others into their downfall. Yet society tells you to be gentle, to tone yourself down, to embrace softness. They dress it up as emotional intelligence. They call it being a better man. But here's the reality. A man who can't defend himself, who can't protect his loved ones, who can't stand up for his own reputation, is not good. He is a liability. Strength isn't optional. It is the entry fee for survival. And once this sinks in, the world rearranges itself in your mind. Every interaction becomes a measurement. Who commands? Who submits? Who sets the terms? And who blindly accepts them? This is why women are drawn to men who exude strength. Their instincts understand what society tries to hide. Weakness cannot shield them. This is why leaders rise. People would rather follow the strong than be swallowed by the chaos created by the weak. And this is why you must decide. Will you be the hunter or the hunted? Your father, your teachers, maybe your mother, they all repeated the same script. Be polite, be agreeable, keep everyone comfortable, don't create conflict, and people will appreciate you. They were wrong. Machiavelli called it out centuries ago. He wrote, "Men are so simple and so prone to immediate desires that a deceiver will always find someone ready to be deceived." Do you understand what he meant? People confuse weakness with goodness. They mistake compliance for morality. They elevate niceness over value. That's why women claim to want the nice guy, yet gravitate toward the man who doesn't bend. That's why corporations praise the cooperative employee, but promote the relentless competitor. That's why society celebrates rebels, rulers, predators. Because niceness is not goodness. Niceness is fear. The fear of conflict, rejection, or disapproval. Niceness is saying whatever earns acceptance. Niceness is begging for validation, hoping to be seen as useful. Goodness is different. Goodness is speaking the truth no matter how uncomfortable it is. Goodness is doing what's right, Even if you stand alone, goodness is holding your ground without flinching when others push back. Nice men chase praise. Good men earn respect. And here's the harsh part. Women don't respect the nice guy. Bosses don't rely on the nice guy. Friends don't follow the nice guy. Because niceness without backbone is simply weakness wearing a smile. And weakness is repulsive. Look at every great leader in history. Caesar, Alexander, Napoleon. Were they soft? Were they desperate for approval? Never. They could be generous, they could be merciful, but only when it aligned with their purpose, never when it compromised their power. Look at today's titans, CEOs, presidents, champions. None of them thrive by being nice. They are fair, they are disciplined, they shield those who stand with them, but they do not bow for acceptance. They don't tremble at being disliked, and that's why people follow them. You can show kindness without surrendering your strength. You can be moral without being a pushover, but you cannot earn respect if you are weak. Strength combined with kindness is magnetic. Weakness wrapped in niceness is toxic. If you take one message from this entire lesson, let it be this. Stop trying to be liked. Start commanding respect. Because when the options are being feared, being loved, or being ignored, the worst fate for a man is to be invisible. Your parents probably drilled into you that loyalty is everything. Loyalty to your friends, your employer, your partner. But Machiavelli saw through the illusion. He understood how the world truly behaves. He warned, "Since love and fear cannot coexist, if one must choose, it is safer to be feared than loved." Read that again. Safer to be feared than loved. Why? Because love is fragile, temporary, conditional. It lasts only as long as it benefits the person offering it. You've witnessed this countless times, even if you refuse to label it. The friend who calls only when he needs something. The company that preaches we're family until the next round of firings. The woman who demands commitment while keeping her options open. That isn't loyalty. It's exploitation wrapped in affection. And here's the part most men never grasp. Loyalty without reciprocity is not honor. It's stupidity. A man who pours loyalty into people who don't return it isn't righteous. He's naive, and the naive exist to be used. Now think of the strongest men you know, truly strong men. Do they cling to loyalty after betrayal? Do they stay after disrespect? Do they tolerate being taken for granted? Absolutely not. They understand that loyalty is a contract, and when the contract is broken, the bond is dead. The harsh reality is this: loyalty isn't being a dog that follows blindly. It's being a wolf that walks beside those who prove worthy and bares its teeth the moment they're not. Machiavelli watched rulers lose their crowns because they trusted too freely. He saw men who believed love would shield them, only to be destroyed by the same people who swore devotion. And today, nothing is different. In business, in relationships, in friendships, loyalty exists only as long as it offers value. So how do you use this? Simple. Give loyalty generously, but withdraw it instantly. Watch how people behave when they have nothing to gain. Observe who stays in the storm, not just in the sunshine. And never keep giving to those who bleed you dry. A man who demands loyalty without offering it is a tyrant. A man who gives loyalty without receiving it is a slave. And slaves get broken. So here is your second dark truth. Never waste loyalty on those who cannot or will not return it. Because loyalty without reciprocity isn't love. It isn't honor. It isn't noble. It's weakness. And weakness gets devoured. But that leads to the real question. If love fades and loyalty collapses, what truly protects a man from betrayal? What keeps him from being discarded once he's no longer useful? Machiavelli's answer was cold and precise. Not love. Not loyalty. Reputation. A man without reputation is already finished. He just hasn't realized it. Machiavelli wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few know what you truly are." Translation: What you seem to be matters far more than what you are inside. This is where most men fail. They mistake authenticity for emotional exposure. They overshare. They display their fears, their insecurities, their doubts. They wear their wounds in public and then wonder why no one respects them. Here's the truth. The world does not reward raw transparency. The world rewards strategic presentation. Your reputation is your armor. It's the shield that guards you, the weapon that cuts through deception, the shadow that walks ahead of you. A powerful reputation makes enemies hesitate. A weak one makes even allies second-guess you. Think about history. Alexander the Great didn't conquer half the known world because of strategy alone. He conquered it because of myth. He spread the idea that he was invincible, half man, half god. His enemies surrendered to the story before they ever surrendered to the sword. Look at modern times. Steve Jobs didn't merely build Apple, he built an aura. People called it the reality distortion field. Investors, employees, even rivals bent around his will because his reputation made them believe he couldn't be challenged. Now compare that to the men you know who constantly complain, constantly defend themselves, constantly try to explain their true intentions. They aren't respected. They aren't feared. They're pitied. Here's the dark law. Perception is reality. And if you don't control perception, someone else will shape it for you. Want to be seen as competent? Stop complaining. Bring solutions. Want to be seen as valuable? Stop being endlessly available. Scarcity creates worth. Want to be seen as powerful? Stop explaining yourself to people who have no impact on your life. This is strategic authenticity, not being fake, simply revealing only the parts of yourself that serve your mission. Reputation is fire. Left unattended, it dies. Let it spread too wildly, it burns you alive. Controlled, it gives you warmth, light, and fear. And here is the cruelest truth. Once your reputation cracks, restoring it may take a lifetime, if it ever comes back at all. Guard it more fiercely than your money, more fiercely than your relationships. Because reputation is the passport to power. Without it, you're already exiled. But even reputation isn't enough, because there will always be people who want to destroy it, people who envy your position, people who want your place. Which brings us to Machiavelli's next warning. There is no avoiding war. It can only be postponed to the advantage of others. Most men think peace is normal, and conflict is the exception. Machiavelli knew the opposite. Conflict is always happening, silently, in shadows, behind doors. The only question is whether you're prepared or whether you'll be devoured. Think of your life as a battlefield. In your career, someone is waiting for you to slip so they can replace you. In relationships, there's always another man ready to take your place if you weaken. In your social circle, someone is always testing your boundaries to see how much they can get away with. If you're not prepared for war, you've already lost. The successful men you admire don't fear conflict. They expect it. They train during peace so they don't bleed during war. A warrior doesn't sharpen his blade when the enemy arrives. He sharpens it every morning. Look around you. Amazon stockpiles resources and crushes threats before they grow. Nations build arsenals during peace. Strong men stay fit, disciplined, and prepared long before a challenge appears. Machiavelli gave us the animal parable. The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. You must be both. Cunning enough to see danger before it arrives. Strong enough to crush it when it does. Most men choose one. The clever fox who eventually gets torn apart, or the strong lion who charges forward and falls into the trap he never saw. But the man who becomes both, that man becomes untouchable. Here's the law. Don't start wars, but be ready to finish all of them. Because predators can sense strength. A man visibly prepared for war rarely has to fight at all. So build yourself into a man others fear to test. Not because you're reckless, but because you radiate readiness. Train when no one is watching. Save when everyone else spends. Study when others are distracted. Forge yourself into a weapon long before the battle begins. Then when war arrives, and it will, you won't panic. You'll already be prepared. But even strength, cunning, reputation, and readiness aren't enough. Most men are destroyed because of one fatal confusion. They mistake niceness for strength. And that leads to the final lie you were raised with: that honesty rules the world, that truth always wins, that integrity is rewarded. That's the fairy tale. Reality, deception has shaped more kingdoms and toppled more empires than honesty ever has. Machiavelli wrote, "A prince never lacks legitimate reasons to break his promises." He didn't say wicked men lie. He said all men of power deceive, because deception isn't corruption. Deception is survival. Nature proves it. The fox feigns weakness. The snake hides before it strikes. The anglerfish lures its prey with light and devours it from darkness. Humans are no different. Politicians sell dreams they never intend to deliver. Corporations wrap poison in joy, freedom, and family branding. Even in your home, promises of loyalty last only until they become inconvenient. Yet most men cling to the fantasy that honesty will protect them. Fools. If you refuse to deceive, you will still be deceived. If you refuse to play the game, you will still be used as a piece on someone else's board. Does this mean lie recklessly? Betray constantly? No. That's what amateurs think power looks like. It means mastering controlled deception, masks when required, silence when necessary, truth when it benefits you, lies when they protect you, broken promises when keeping them would destroy you. Because here's the rule: no one dares speak aloud. The honest man isn't noble, he's prey. You were taught morality is absolute, good versus evil. But Machiavelli understood what most men never will. Morality isn't truth. Morality is control. Who defines what's good? The powerful. When rulers want obedience, they call submission virtue. When they want sacrifice, they call dying for them honor. When they want control, anything that threatens them becomes evil. And the masses swallow it because it makes them feel safe, because moral illusions give the world an order it doesn't actually have. But history spits on that illusion. History proves a brutal truth. Morality has never been about righteousness, only about control. The church once burned men alive and called it saving their souls. Nations justified slavery, conquest, and genocide and called it civilization. Modern governments bomb cities and call it defending freedom. Morality is not truth. Morality is narrative. And whoever controls the narrative controls what the masses call good. Here's the darker twist. The powerful rarely follow the morality they preach. They don't have to. They crafted it for everyone else. They condemn lying while deceiving you daily. They condemn ruthlessness while crushing rivals behind closed doors. They condemn selfishness while hoarding wealth and resources. Why? Because a population that believes morality is fixed becomes easy to rule. They police themselves. They shame each other. They kneel willingly, believing obedience is virtue. Meanwhile, the powerful break those rules whenever it benefits them, because they know morality is not sacred, it is a tool. Machiavelli revealed the real law. A prince must learn how not to be good, and use this knowledge when necessary. Do not discard morality. Wield it. Appear moral when it benefits you. Break morality when survival or dominance requires it. And never become a prisoner of someone else's moral code. The man who clings to morality at all costs becomes a pawn. But the man who bends morality to his will becomes a king. Every empire, every corporation, every household, even love itself, runs on the same hidden currency. Not money, not honor, not affection, but fear and reward. Machiavelli understood that men are not moved by ideals, but by sensation, the fear of pain and the desire for pleasure. Strip away politics, religion, etiquette, and you uncover the same mechanics. A king stays in power not because God appointed him, but because people fear his wrath more than they hate his rule. A corporation keeps employees obedient with the threat of unemployment and the promise of promotion. Parents shape children with punishments and rewards wrapped into daily life. He who controls the balance of fear and reward controls the man. Look around. The politician promises safety, reward, and warns of enemies, fear. The preacher offers paradise, reward, but threatens hellfire. Fear. The lover withdraws affection, then floods you with it, reward. These are not coincidences. They are ancient tactics. Most men fail because they rely on only one side. They give endlessly, breeding entitlement, or they rule with pure fear, breeding rebellion. Machiavelli taught the balance. Too much reward weakens. Too much fear provokes revolt. But a man who alternates them, like poison and honey, creates loyalty stronger than chains. Look at abusive relationships. The victim stays because the cruelty is followed by kindness. The contrast becomes addictive. Look at tyrants who rule for decades. They punish just enough to instill fear. They reward just enough to prevent revolt. Now look at yourself. Do you influence through constant giving or through cold pressure? Both are weak. The true Machiavellian mixes the two with precision. Ask yourself, what does this person fear losing most? What does this person crave most deeply? How can I control both? Once you answer those, you own them. The truth about trust. People talk about trust as if it's carved from stone, unbreakable, eternal. But Machiavelli knew better. Trust is glass, beautiful, reflective, and the moment it cracks, it shatters forever. The first law, trust is temporary. It exists only while both sides benefit. Think of your life. How fast did a friend's trust in you vanish when you stopped being useful? How fast did your trust in someone die after one betrayal? How many relationships collapsed after a single broken promise? This is not rare. This is normal. The man who builds his life on trust builds on glass. Eventually, it breaks beneath him. Here's where strong men separate from weak men. The weak beg for trust. They make promises. They plead. They explain themselves endlessly. When trust shatters, they fall apart. The strong never beg for trust. They engineer it. They manufacture it through image, consistency, and controlled vulnerability. They use trust as a tool, never as a foundation. The con artist succeeds because he looks trustworthy. The politician wins because he appears believable for just long enough. The seducer succeeds because he gains just enough trust to lower defenses. And here's the darkest law. The man who trusts too easily is easier to control than the man who trusts no one. The blind believer hands you the keys to his own destruction. He forgives betrayal repeatedly. He swallows excuses. He clings to the illusion because facing the truth terrifies him. This is why weak men are eaten alive. They think trust is proof of love, proof of honor, proof of morality. But trust is simply leverage. And those who understand this hold the leash. So burn this into your mind. Do not rely on trust. Use it, shape it, exploit it, but never depend on it for survival. Because trust is not stone. It is glass, and it was made to break. You've now seen what most men are never allowed to see, that people are emotional, not rational. That loyalty without reciprocity is weakness. That reputation is armor. That war is constant. That niceness is camouflage, not virtue. That fear endures longer than love. That deception is survival. That masks are necessary. That morality is a cage. That betrayal is inevitable. That fear and reward steer human behavior. And that trust, the thing most men cling to, is fragile glass. You were raised to stay blind, obedient, harmless. But now that blindfold is gone, you'll see every smile as a mask, every promise as bait, every act of virtue as strategy. You've stepped into the darkness. And once you see the darkness, the light cannot blind you again. The question is no longer whether you understand these truths. You do. The question is, will you use them? Because knowledge like this is a weapon. In the hands of the weak, it becomes paranoia. In the hands of the strong, it becomes power. The kind of power that bends the world. If you are strong, carry it. If you are weak, bury it and pretend you never heard this. But if you are ready for the next step, understand this. Machiavelli did not leave warnings. He left blueprints, and I'll show you every one. But only if you want to become untouchable. Like the video. Subscribe, because the next lesson won't comfort you. It will transform you. And once it does, you will never be ignored again.